Welcome to Smithville Chamber Chatter, coming to you from historic Smithville, Texas. We're here to talk about all things Smithville, including upcoming events, updates and tips for and about local businesses, important news, election updates, and more. Brought to you by the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce, I'm your host, April Daniels. Welcome to our podcast. Good afternoon and welcome to the Smithville Chamber Chatter with your host, April Daniels. We're excited to be here today with our Chamber Chatter podcast, sponsored by the Smithville Area Chamber of Commerce and today's sponsor, the Elgin Courier. Our guest today is Tiffany Pryor with the Katy House Bed Breakfast. Thank you so much for being here today, Tiffany, and being a part of our Smithville Chamber Chatter podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited today to be kicking off a series where we welcome new business owners. Now, I know you've all heard of the Katy House Bed and Breakfast, and we all love Bruce and Sally Blaylock, and we all love the beautiful home where the Katy House is located. But Tiffany and her family have now taken the charge and moved forward with the Katy House, and we're so excited to have them here today. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your family and why you decided to buy a business in Smithville.
Okay. So my name is Tiffany Pryor, and I am married to Joe Pryor. We have been together for 22 years. Our love story started at Red Lobster in Florida. Yes. And just over the course of our relationship, we've moved from Florida to Austin, several different places in Austin. And just about a year ago, we stumbled on Smithville, and our steps were ordered to really just be part of the community. I don't think I've been to another special place, than Smithville, but we have two girls. We have a 23-year-old and we have a 12-year-old. So the 23-year-old is in Austin. We are also grandparents. So we have So we have a 1-year-old grandson who is absolutely precious. So as far as moving to Smithville or wanting to own a business in Smithville, the truth be told, that was never in the cards. That was never in our plan. That was never in our mindset at all. We fell in love with the town and ended up buying a historic home here to renovate, and planned to stay in Austin full time. But the more we started to come and visit, again, it is a different lifestyle, is a different frame of mind. I almost feel like it's stepping back 20 years, where just the community is true community. And we also saw our daughter really thrive here. Every time she was here, she gets to ride her bike everywhere. She gets to walk down to the coffee shop or go get a pizza. And there's just a simplicity that really drew us. And so we were talking one day and I said, hey, what do you think about moving to Smithville for a year and finishing our house and then going back to Austin? And he was like, absolutely, let's do it. And so we were going to live with a friend and finish our house. And she called a week before we were going to move here. And she said, hey, what do you think about living in the Katy House? They have some extra space and could use some help here and there. What do you think? And so I talked to Joe and he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we move into this magnificent home, and slowly but surely you just start to meet and engage with people that you would never typically cross paths with. There have been famous musicians to stay here, famous photographers to stay here, famous small business or larger business owners, just walking through these sweet doors. And one day the previous owners, Linda and Stu, called and said, hey, I think we're going to sell it. And it was definitely not in the cards for us by any means. And And I called Joe and I just cried. And I just said my heart I just have such a heart of service and for people, just to love people. And but we knew it was not feasible at all to do. And slowly over the course of months, we started to see pieces move into place where we ended up being able, literally mountains were moved for this to happen. It is a miracle that I am sitting here, truth be told. And so we ended up, again, just being here very organically. And I think there's a sweetness to that. So it was never about owning a business. It was never about we actually had never even stayed in a bed and breakfast before. And now I'm like, there's a huge difference between a hotel guest and a bed and breakfast guest. And I would choose bed and breakfast all day long.
Well, that is an exciting story. And I will tell you, I am charmed by the idea of the Red Lobster being what you led with and how you all met.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing better than those cheesy biscuits, is there? That's something to think about.
Yes.
But I know that I am so charmed by your story of how you kind of just wound up where you are. But I think it's very interesting to me. I'm a transplant to Smithville as well. We've lived here, my husband and I, about 16 years, which is just brand new, really, in Smithville terms.
Yeah.
But the town has been incredibly welcoming, and I'm so thrilled to see that you feel the same way about our town. And that is the passion that we need here in the community. People that are committed and excited about our little town. And I love for our viewers to hear from people that talk about what a great quality of life we have here in Smithville. That is something that most of the business owners talk about, whether they're brand new business owners or they've been here for decades. They talk about the quality of life and what it means to live in our small town. Anyway, I'm very excited to hear you say all of that about Smithville. And so I know that you did touch a little bit on the historic, beautiful nature of the building that you're in, the Katy House. But I don't think, I certainly understand the history of the building, but I don't think a lot of our viewers do. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of the house and some of the historic background related to the railroad, which of course is where the name comes from.
Yes. So the house was built in 1909 by J.H. Chancellor. From what I understand, and speaking of the history, I feel like I've just scratched the surface. Bruce and Sally Blaylock, the founders of the Katy House, he is an expert through and through. So I hope I do just a little fraction of justice of all the history that he's put together. But J.H. Chancellor built the house in 1909. And he was an influencer in Smithville real estate and building of homes. Now, from there, he ended up bringing in, from what I understand, the best of the best from architecture to design. You'll see throughout the house, especially on the second floor, the walls are longleaf pine, but they're all diagonal. What is the word? It helps with the sturdiness or the support, I guess. The entire house is built from fire brick. So even the inspector, when they did the inspection, said, "You are buying a fort." It's actually 4 levels, and so the bottom is a basement. It used to be the furnace. And then you have the first floor, which is where I am right now. Second floor is all rentable rooms for the Katy House, and the third floor is a private residence. We even have cottages in the back as well. But the architecture and just the details across the house they're absolutely stunning. The ceilings are about 11 feet high, and all of the windows are at least 7 feet long. There have been no renovations that have moved walls or windows, so it is truly still a house that remains the way that it was designed. Now, after Chancellor Dr. Stevens, who was a railroad surgeon, ended up having a private practice in this home. And so babies have been born here. I always say that this is Smithville's home. We're just the caretakers for a little while because there were so many people cared for. I've heard stories from, that's where I got stitches, that's where I got my ears pierced, that's where I was born. People stop by the house on a regular basis and just ask questions or, just want to look. And we'd love to hear the stories from there. And then in 1985, Bruce and Sally purchased the house. And from there, it became the Katy House Bed and Breakfast. Bruce has a passion for the railroad. And so the Katy line actually ran through Smithville. And so the names are all like railroad car names, and he even had the china from one of the railroad cars that he would serve breakfast on. So from there, they owned it for 20 years. And then Linda and Stu, they purchased it in, I think, 1994. And they had it for 5 years, and then we were ushered in. So,
well, I certainly remember when the Katy House was owned by Bruce and Sally, and I can certainly say that Bruce Blaylock is one of the foremost experts on railroad history.
Oh my gosh!
And if you don't know Bruce, for our viewers, if you don't know Bruce Blaylock, he is helping us with the restoration as we rebuild the visitor center and railroad museum that we lost to fire last year. And he knows everything there is to know, and is going to make sure that we restore that or rebuild with that historic accuracy in place. And it's exciting to hear that historical accuracy is continued in the Katy House. We have so many beautiful, historically accurate homes here that it's exciting to know. And you, our viewers, should go and stay and have your folks that come from out of town go and stay there, and so that they can really appreciate and see an example of a close to turn of the century home and how people lived. And it always amazes me to think that people lived without air conditioning back in those times. But these homes that have big, tall ceilings and great big windows and nice big breezeways, I'm sure had a lot to do with it. Now, having to wear big, long skirts at the same time, I can't imagine.
Right.
I want to take just a quick moment to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, the Elgin Courier. Thank you so much for always being supportive of the Smithville Chamber of Commerce. So, Tiffany, I know one of the first times I ever spoke with you was you contacted the Chamber during the COVID-19 crisis, which of course is still ongoing, and had a wonderful program going on for first responders, which is so generous of you and your family. Tell us a little bit about some of the deals and activities and things that you all are doing there at the Katy House, not just in that one particular instance, but kind of some of your plans for the future.
Okay. There are so many ideas and so many dreams that hopefully little by little will start to chip away. I think one thing that is really important to us is try to do more groups, if you will. So we did some live music here during COVID to support a local musician, a local Austin musician who actually was a guest at one point. And we're starting to see that the guests become family very quickly. And so they asked if they could come and do a streaming concert here. And so from there, we've started to talk about just doing little garden concerts outside. just to try to support musicians as best we can and bring some people in for some of the great food that we have. We've talked about a friend of mine is one of the friends that we have is a professional dance instructor. And so we've thought about doing, or it's in the works, wedding dance weekends where couples who are engaged come in for the weekend. They have the whole property, and we do several sessions of learning their wedding dance. I am very fortunate to be married to a chef, and food is a important part of our life. And so we've talked about doing really just specialty dinners. Again, we only have 6 rooms, and so there's 3 in the house, and then we have 3 cottages in the back. So they'll always be very small, intimate settings from a special event standpoint. But we thoroughly enjoy that too, because I feel like it's within reach to be able to execute well. So, really just, there are a couple people that are looking for a backyard wedding, that are looking at the space. We have family reunions, so people that rent out all of the rooms in the property, just to gather in a very different way than you would in a hotel. So we're just trying to really think of, what are some things that would be important to people to experience even for just a couple of days, and create and design from there.
What exciting ideas you have. I'm always so thrilled to hear about new, exciting ways to get people to come and enjoy what is Smithville. Of course, you all are right downtown, right off of Main Street. So I know that part of the draw of your business is the walkability to our downtown businesses and restaurants. So that's pretty exciting. And I certainly know that we're going to see lots of great things from you in the future.
Wow, thank you.
Of course. Is there anything you'd like to add for our viewers before we wrap up our podcast today?
Yeah, I would just say, Smithville is truly a special town, and it drew us in. Somebody said to me the other day, if Smithville draws you in, Smithville picks you. You don't pick Smithville. And, I've clung to that a little bit. And, I think that a special person can come in and just see again that it's a totally different way of being. This house is a home of peace. You feel it when you walk in. I think that the caretakers previous to us have just really honored the home and taken really great care of it. And so we hope to continue that legacy. The other thing that I would say is, I hope in a sense we get to challenge the stereotype of a bed and breakfast. I know I had my own mindset before we started living in one. and so, just to there were some women from Austin and Houston that came in this past weekend, and they were sitting at the breakfast table, and they one of the things they said is, I don't even remember the last time I was in a bed and breakfast. So, I would think it just feels a little more boutique, if you will, with the comforts of the bed and breakfast. So even if, you don't typically search for a bed and breakfast to stay in, you go for a hotel, I hope that maybe you'll consider coming here and at least meeting my family and letting us take care of you for a day or two.
Oh, absolutely.
Or longer, whatever.
Or however long you want to stay. I will say personally, I've had lots of guests come and stay at the Katy House. And one thing people often think about bed and breakfast is that there's some sort of a communal bathroom spaces. I can say that each of these fantastic rooms at the Katy House has its own private bathrooms, all of which are very unique and interesting. One of the rooms has a fantastic balcony on it, and the breakfasts have always been fantastic at the Katy House.
Yes.
So I highly recommend, especially if you want to have that authentic Smithville experience and you're staying in our downtown area, the Katy House is your best bet for having a wonderful historic Smithville time. So I'm
Oh,
excited
thank
that,
you.
yes, I'm very excited to see it continue on.
Thank
So
you.
I want to thank you, Tiffany, for being here with us today. Thank you and your family for investing in and taking a chance on Smithville. I know you'll be here for many years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. We invite our listeners and viewers to join us in 2 weeks when our guest will be yet another new business owner. I'm sure lots of you have seen the new tire place right down the street on the Loop. We will have the new owners here to speak with us, tell us why they have also come and invested in our community and are excited to be here in Smithville. Until then, we'll see you on Main Street.
Mm.
Thank you for listening to Smithville Chamber Chatter with your host, April Daniels. If you'd like to be a guest, email us at april.daniels@smithvilletx.org. Between now and our next episode, be sure to check out the Chamber's website at www.smithvilletx.org. Until then, we'll see you on Main Street.